All right. Peace and love, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Art of Storytelling podcast where we are reshaping the Black narrative one interview at a time. And this is a joyous occasion. This is a rarity. Okay. The reason why I begin this particular journey in this particular podcast lane is because of a conversation that I had with one who gave me sight beyond sight. Okay, so that's my Thundercat reference. Okay, she gave me sight beyond sight. I call her the transformative thought facilitator and the great idea whisperer. So we're here to realize that there's an intersectionality between love and purpose. They say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So the intersectionality between loving what you do and work is finding your purpose in it. So she repurposed my purpose on purpose for this purpose. So we're here on purpose for a purposeful experience surrounding this research question. What does it mean to be black at full sail? So we got a myriad of perspectives that we're going to share and be able to examine and analyze. So it becomes my honor and esteemed privilege to introduce some, present the others. The great idea thought whisperer, the transformative thought facilitator, the magnanimous, masterful mastermind of my professor and my mentor, Joiya Poole. Welcome to Art of Storytelling Podcast. How are you?
I am grateful and honored to be here, especially after that intro. I was thinking to myself, um, I need to get you to help me polish up my AKAs for my when I do my whatever my podcast, whatever I share with the world, when I start making that content, I have a list of my AKAs.
Love
Um,
it.
and I loved the ones that you added. I was like, ooh, those are good. But I'm good. I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
I'm thankful. I am so thankful for you. I'm telling you, Mother God, if it was not for her, I tell you, things would be a little different. So, this art of storytelling, this beautiful playoff of, you know, outcast and that set ability to be able to honor storytelling. And I had no real idea, the through line that all of my life experiences had a point where they connected together, and that point was storytelling. So we're here to tell a story. We looked at the narrative that's presented by the mainstream and by the entertainment industry, and we was like, nah, I don't like how this is happening. So you were courageous enough to tell me, like, hey, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, all right, I'm going to do a little something, something. So when I presented this idea, you were very welcoming and offering refining insight in regards to where it is. So it's beginning to grow, it's beginning to blossom, and it's something I'm going to take with me outside of this full cell experience. But I want to circle into this full cell experience full tilt and ask you, out of all of the places in the universe that you could have been gone to pursue some aspects of your education from a student perspective and from a faculty perspective, what brought you to Full Sail at this junction?
Mm. Um, it's such a deep question. I'm gonna try to stay focused. And I've been thinking about this. At the time that I came to Full Sail, um, I was introduced to Full Sail through working there first. Specifically, my partner, my husband. Now we weren't married at the time, but he works in the video games industry. And the first time I'd ever met a black person, much less a black person around my age, I'm 35. Well, we'll be 35 this year. Um, I never met anyone that had a job like that. I knew that they existed, but like to know someone like that, um, that was mind blowing for me. And when he was younger, he heard about Full Sail. He was thinking about where he wanted to go to school to make video games, and they used to have an ad in the back of Game Informer. They probably still do. Um, and he saw that, and that was where he wanted to go. He did not attend Full Sail. He actually had the opportunity to go to Morehouse University in Atlanta, which I'm very grateful for because I don't know how we would have met um, otherwise with that connection there between us. But Full Sail was always something he knew about. And I'd gone to college before. I've always been a very studious girl. I was a tutor as a kid. I loved to read. I would spend all my time in a library. I still do. I love to learn. And while I enjoyed being in college, I was also bored with the curriculum in my previous universities. It was very stringent, it was very rigid, um, very traditional academia. And I wasn't really learning about the things that I wanted to learn about. And I grew up in the 90s. I'm a big pop culture girl. Um, and so for me, I always found the connection with learning things by connecting it to something I was already interested in. And so in my English class, I'm writing a retrospective about Sex in the City because I was watching that TV show at that time. And I would connect my thoughts to these like academic thought processes. You want me to deconstruct feminism in art? Okay, cool. I'm going to do it through the lens that I understand. And my teachers in my previous universities, they were supportive of that. I would often get feedback on my papers, bold idea, courageous take. Wow. But I also knew that those teachers were kind of like one in a million. There were also going to be teachers that did not go for that, that did not allow that. I was going to fail or get flunked out or something. And so I craved space. And so that was something I was looking to explore when I did finish my bachelor's degree. Um, and so media communications, when I found out about this program at Full Sail and just working here, I had the opportunity to get to know the school, the people that started the school, the people that taught at this school that teach here now, that used to teach here. I was even mentored by some of these people. Like they chose me to mentor me. Um, and these people worked in the entertainment industry and they came here to this school because they were told they couldn't do the things that they wanted to do because of whatever limitations they had in their life, be it a learning disability or maybe where you came from. They experienced their own types of oppression, and their response to that oppression was, let me show you what I can do. And they try to really cultivate that energy and that spirit for the next generation to try to show students, to show people what is possible instead of us putting them in boxes. Let me show you what I can do. And that's always been my spirit as a person, too. And so that all just kind of resonated with me. And it seemed cool to be able to learn about media and the psychology of communication, the the process to understand how to tell stories, um, the beauty of it, to celebrate that, to research that. So that was why I decided to complete my bachelor's degree here. Um, I needed space, and everything else that I'd seen and experienced up to that point was way too stuffy for me. Um, and I was okay with that, but they weren't always okay with that. And so it was also really um, healing to come to a space and to be accepted for who I was and be championed and encouraged to continue down that path to see who I become in later iterations of myself. And so all of that made sense. It felt safe and important and like home. Um, And so, yeah, that's why I pursued my degree here. That's why I was a student. Oh, wait. I was a single mom. I had a full-time job. And at that time, the ability to complete a degree of that type, there were very specific ideas of what was possible. This is a pre-pandemic world, pre-online learning world. So the fact that we had a school, an educational system that was trying to bridge those gaps, I saw opportunity there. So I took it on, and yeah.
I love it. I do. I love it. So, can you share, since we're talking about this round, from student to faculty member, can you share your insight in the shifted mindset that's necessary to make this transition from a black student to a black faculty member here at Full Sail?
Mm. Another layered question. The honor of being an educator, a black educator. Um, I'll be honest, I had some imposter syndrome when Kathy Craven approached me with the opportunity to teach. I was like, "Ooh, I'm not qualified. I'm not what? I'm not I haven't earned that." I had. And we can look at my resume at a different time, but I've put in the work. I know the things, and I have a heart for it. And so I think recognizing those things and accepting it, not apologizing for that being true, being proud of it, and knowing that that's my right, definitely was necessary for me to do what I do what I did. Also, when I think about my experiences, we talked about this off camera, and I've talked about this before at Full Sail, so there's stuff somewhere. I've told my story in the Full Sail space a lot of times. Y'all can find out those little details. But I grew up seeing black teachers. I had black teachers, black principals, literally from like elementary school on. I have never not known black teachers. Um, and so, but coming to Florida, because I'm not from Florida like originally, coming to Florida, I came across a lot of people, black and white, that were like, I'm an adult. And the first time that I had a black teacher was in college. Girl, what? You have, and like, you don't think about something like that, like when it's happening to you, but then when you see the thing that you've never seen before, that stands out to you. You remember that. And so, one, there is a need and an importance that there's visibility, especially in academia, especially in my opinion, for Black people in this country, because academia has not always been a welcoming space to Black people. And we have to accept that that's true. And that's, instead of arguing about is it true, isn't it true, I want you to go and identify how true that is and why it's true. And that can be different for every single person that engages with this interview. But before we say, no, that's not true, I want you to imagine a possibility that it is, and then try to understand why. And then, if you're an educator, say, what am I doing? Do I agree with that? Do I agree with that notion? And if not, what am I doing to show that to people? How am I creating safety for people that don't feel safe in this space? Because when we talk about the Black student experience in any school, Black men don't feel welcomed. They don't feel like they belong in that space. And you want to know why they don't? Because they don't see themselves. They don't see themselves in their faculty. They don't see themselves in their administration. They don't see themselves in the curriculum. And so, how could you think that you belong in a space where you don't even see yourself? Right. And so, for me, I'm a mom. I have Black male friends. It was important to me that I go and seek out Black male students and help them feel welcome in this space. Encourage them to bloom and be themselves and learn and challenge themselves in this space because it's your right. And also, you're paying for this. So let's get the most out of every bit of that investment. And the same thing for Black girls. Black girls is a little bit different because we are conditioned, encouraged. We have been in our society here. We've been conditioned to be the smart girl, to know all the things. A lot of my female friends that are Black, extremely educated, multiple degrees. We, we're chasing after doctorate degrees like they giving that away for free. And that's for our ancestors, that's for our grandmothers, our grandfathers that weren't allowed to read, that were literally oppressed, could not learn, could not show people that they were smart. Um, and I mean, there's so many reasons. There's layers, right, of why that's important. And so it's funny when I came into the space, I wanted Black girls to feel safe and to feel seen and they could be themselves and learn and see themselves in this space. But also, I wanted to make sure that men felt like that. And so I found myself like, and it wasn't a conscious choice, but when I look back at the students I've mentored, most of them were men. And it started because I was in a classroom one day and I saw them standing over in the corner, not talking to anybody, trying to make themselves smaller. One of my favorite mentees, and he's family at this point, he's, I look up at him. And the first time I saw him, he was in a classroom and he was like cowering, trying to make himself smaller. And I went up to him and I asked him, who was he? What you doing? What you into? Why you here? Just, tell me who you are. And I found out we ended up talking like for a really long time beyond class that day. And on the way out, we walked out of the building together and we get in the parking lot and he turns around and he says, today I told myself I was only going to try and talk to my teachers like one more time. I'd had a lot of bad experiences in my time here as a student with teachers and things like that. And I told myself, okay, you're going to give it one last college try. You're going to show up today and you're going to try and engage. And he said, and you talk to me. If you hadn't talked to me, I was going to drop out. When I tell you I wept, I still weep about that because that young man is extremely brilliant. What if I hadn't said hello to him? What if I hadn't asked him about himself? Where would he be? And developing that awareness, that's a really important shift that I think is extremely important to being an effective teacher because much like being a parent, this ain't about me. I do for my son because I'm trying to help him be the best version of who he wants to be one day. And I don't get to define what that looks like, what that sounds like. I'm here to create safety and support for him so that he can self actualize into whomever he is supposed to be. And so being curious, learning, um, I would often model to students, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Let's learn together. Or sometimes I would go do the research myself and I come back to them later and say, I went and learned this thing. You know, I can't expect someone to be something and do something that I'm not currently doing. And I really do believe in lead by example, be the example, especially when you don't see one. Um, and so all of those things were um, important to me. And even though I'm a Black woman, shocker, in case we didn't know, um, I don't know everything about being Black. I don't know everything about Black history. It's not my job to know everything about Black history, but I do think it's my privilege and my right to be curious, right? Um, it's also my privilege and my right to be curious about other information because I like to learn things. And so I took the time to try to be careful and show up for the students in the ways that they hope to show up in their careers and in their lives. Um, and also letting them know that it's okay to figure it out along the way. So, yeah, when I think about what I needed to do in order to be a good teacher, it was in large part identifying where am I on the emotional maturity scale. Am I where I can be? Am I helping people with where I am? And also stretch. Okay, I'm here now. I went to the gym this morning, and at the gym, you don't just you don't plateau. You don't, I can lift 200 pounds and that's where I stop. No, the next time I'm working out, I'm adding 2.5 pounds to that weight to see if I can do it. And I probably can't do it perfectly the first time, but if I practice, oof, I'm going to do it. And so that's life. That's being a learner. And it's fun. So let's enjoy it. Yeah.
So, being on both ends of the spectrum, being a black student, being a black faculty member, how would you say, or would you say, that Full Sail is welcoming to its black student population? And if not, what are some things that could be done to bridge the gap?
We joked about this before we started recording. And I'm still going to say what I said I was going to say. So brace yourselves, Joyous. She's flying off the rails today.
Speak those
Um,
speech.
listen, that part. Is anywhere in America welcoming to black people? Like for real? Like and that's on white supremacy, that's on capitalism, that's on the historical fact that we all agree that black people were shuttled over to this country to build everything that we have right now and not get paid for it. So, no, it's not welcoming. Like these spaces were not created with us in mind. These spaces were created with other people that look differently, that move through the world with different experiences differently. More importantly, it was set up that way. This place was created with the understanding that we want a place that's all ours and can't nobody else have a good time here. So that's everywhere, right? And so the work that we all can do, because I'm not here to tell you what you have to do and don't have to do, but the work that we can do, to quote Mr. Rogers, is be a helper. A tragedy took place, go help people. Don't just be an onlooker, don't be judgmental, be a helper. Um, and so there are ways that Full Sail is welcoming. I think this environment, at least for me, has been welcoming in that I had the freedom to be myself in all the different versions of me, right? I could be my alt black girl self that listens to Paramore and um, I don't know. I do yoga before it became cool and everybody else was doing it. I meditate. I do all my woo woo hippie stuff. And I've been told before that I'm not like other black people. I'm different, right? And so being in a space like Full Sail, it was exciting because no one expected me to be a specific version of myself. Kinda. Almost got you. Not all the way, because there were still expectations of how Joy was gonna act. Anytime Joy felt a way about something, if I was frustrated or passionate about something, that read as aggressive, or you know, negative, right? There's fear. There's fear of the black body in this country that we all have, including us black people. Um, but also there was space for me to be different. And I was encouraged by people. I was mentored by people that look differently than me. My whole life, I've been mentored by primarily by Black people, older of all ages, of all spaces in life. And I got my first real mentor that wasn't a Black person. My first couple of mentors at Full Sail were white women. I didn't think I had anything in common with them. And those people saved my life at moments because they held space for me. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to explore what that could look like for me. And so I encourage every student, um, explore what community can look like, even though it's different than what you might be used to or what you might have wanted to experience. Um, but then also, there were those moments where those white people didn't know anything about Black people. You know, I'm not Black, so I don't know anything about Black History Month. It's not my right to talk about Black History Month. Not only it's not your right, right? It is. We're free. Um, but it's your responsibility because of what people before you did, because of the things that you got to experience in the interest of helping people feel welcome. I do think that there is work that we can do as a university, as a country, as a world, everywhere, to expand our awareness of the contributions of Black creators to everything that we have. Because at the beginning of this, we admitted that Black people built all this, right? Y'all had plantations and stuff. We didn't just stop doing all of that. We still building things. Full Sail is a media and entertainment based school, ecosystem, community. You know how many of our Hall of Famers are Black? Do you know how many grads are Black? Do you know the notable contributions of our Black graduates? Do we sing those praises in the same grain that we're singing the praises of the white ones? It's embarrassing. We look like we don't know what we're talking about sometimes. And also, there are Black students that want to come to this school because Brandon Edgerton, who has multiple Grammys, teaches here. He's worked with so many amazing, talented people. He is responsible for some of the music. He had a part in that. That the music that we listen to, that we celebrate. Why don't more people know that? Why don't more people know who he is in our community, outside of our community, right? Why in our curriculum, like I said, if I can just venture a guess, it is Black History Month right now. How many of our educators have adjusted their curriculum to feature a Black creative that is responsible for something in the industry that they teach about, the industry that they are saying they are experts, that they've worked in? It don't make sense. And it doesn't have to be hard. And I champion that, and I've been championing that idea around the university for years now because I am so sick of us all peddling in Black trauma. The only time we get to hear about Black folks, slavery movies, movies about the 1950s, segregation. I am so sick of seeing our trauma as public consumption for people, as entertainment. This is traumatizing. There are so many beautiful things that we have done. And every class, also don't tokenize me. Don't come to me in Black History Month and say, Joya, let's do Black History Month content. Also, you need to have these Black people in your content all the time. This needs to be in your curriculum all the time. And if you don't know who to go to or what to talk about, okay, well, that's where we're going to start with our research, huh? And I'm saying that looking every instructor who's looking at this content in the face, serious, real talk, because what do we expect our students to do? We expect our students to go learn. We expect our students to research. So why aren't we? Start small, but do it. Especially if you want me to feel welcome here, if you want students to feel welcome, to feel safe, to trust that you know all the things you know. And you can feel however you want to about it. That's just the reality of where we're at. Because I can tell you all of the white projects and all of the white creators that I was required to know. You couldn't tell me nothing about somebody black. Meanwhile, those black creators are the whole reason why I even think to work in this type of industry, to even do this type of work. We can do better. We can do better.
Yes, we can. All right. So the final question. Well, I have two questions. I got two questions.
I like it. I'm good.
So in this full cell experience, because when I spoke with another student yesterday, I wanted to know what the response was to the shifting world when of black experience that happened in America, because she said, she was there for a couple of years. So it's like, okay, in this time frame, were there conversations, surrounding atrocities that happen that affect black life and black people, uh, you know, on campus, online, or any kind of way from Full Sail?
So you're asking me that question too, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I've been at Full Sail now for since 2017, June of 2017. Definitely, there were conversations, and I participated in a lot of them. Before I was a teacher, I was as a student, I was a member of the Black Student Union. And a colleague of mine and a friend of mine was the current advisor for the Black Student Union. And so we would collaborate often and offer um, panel discussions, interview sessions. I mean, and around the world, we saw the collective response of people waking up and realizing, oh, there's still racism. There's still oppression. Oh, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. Like that happened, right? It happened everywhere. And it looked differently. It happened differently. I genuinely believe that the intention, the goal was to be helpful and to be inclusive, right? But also we have to be honest with ourselves and like acknowledge just how science works, right? Like nothing is perfect, especially not the first time we try to do something. Um, and so there was a lot of embarrassment. I think the term that we heard a lot of was white guilt. There was a lot of white guilt about what people didn't know. There was a lot of white guilt about, oh my gosh, I would have coworkers that would come up to me and apologize for something wild that they said to me in passing in the break room 3 years before. It was really like polarizing because I'm like, girl, I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, that thing. Let's not talk about that because that was embarrassing, right? But they meant well. They meant well. And I have had good intentions and been very clumsy in my approach, and that's okay, right? That's the learning process. Um, and that happened here too, right? I will say that the full cell environment, just from my own perspective, what I've experienced in the world and what I've seen in the world, there was a genuine desire for change. There is a genuine desire for change, for inclusivity, all those buzzwords. There were book clubs. I read white feminism in a book club at school, like with coworkers. Um, there's a lot of learning that's happening. Learning is also a little bit of a slow process. And so while we may want to take one class and say, I'm an expert, that's not how it works, right? We're still getting better at it. Um, Definitely, I think that the response was like an overcorrection. But again, that happened everywhere, right? Everybody all of a sudden knew what Juneteenth was, but then they also did know what Juneteenth was. Yeah, we got to pick a struggle, y'all. Either we don't know, we're going to learn, or we don't know and yeah, we want to do better. Um, so there have been changes also as we've come out of the pandemic, and also as we've all developed a deeper awareness of like how complex the process of being an ally, being supportive, being woke, excuse me, doing all the things, that we say we want to do. Black Lives Matter. It is hard. It's gonna take time, right? We've seen some white people kind of go back in their shells and just go back to what they were always doing. There were some white people that was just like, "Yo, I get that that's important to you, not me." So things have gotten better. They also haven't. Um, and I think in the areas where it hasn't gotten better, I would like to see those in positions of authority kind of hold the line more. One thing I've learned a lot about white people, and the more that I've been around white people, that's different from my experience and my upbringing. White people get to choose a lot of what they do and don't want to do. And I say specifically white folks, because I'm going to tell you what, my black ass, sorry, I swear sometimes, but my black ass couldn't do certain things. My black ass couldn't say certain things. Shoot, I probably ain't supposed to be saying this to some people. Oh well, freedom. Um, I'm not supposed to listen to certain things. I'm not supposed to dress a certain way. Like the ways that people would police my existence. It's not your business. That's not what you're here to do. And also, like, what do you have going on? Like, you're not exactly a fashionista either. So you shouldn't be telling me how to dress because, like, look at how you showing up to work. But I don't because that ain't my business. And so to that point, I'm very disappointed in white leadership in a lot of areas because everything's a choice for their people, like everybody know I'm black in Black History Month and they want to come and tokenize me and have me come and trot around and welcome the black students and talk to the kids and cover this thing and you want to do a profile on me this month. What about your white coworkers? What about your white um the people that are reporting to you? What's happening in their curriculum? Did they get a choice in what they want to talk about? Is that choice fueled by what they want to do? Is that choice fueled by what their students want to do? That's because I didn't always see that. And the thing that I would always be chastised and told by my leadership is, well, I can't make someone do something. No, you can't make people do things, and that's fair. We don't want to force people to do stuff because, that kind of sounds like slavery. But y'all did that to me. You're doing it to me right now. You're making me participate in whatever they got going on. Why do they get to choose what's true for everybody? You know, the amount of people that I interact with in our community that have positions of authority that get to decide what everyone does, and they don't actually engage with the culture. And when I say the culture, I mean the media industry. I would go into classrooms when I first started teaching. I didn't know nothing about TikTok. TikTok was brand new when I became an instructor. I learned. I also had sessions where we talked about TikTok and how to be on TikTok and what it's for and how it works. I taught students that. And sometimes I learned with them. A lot of my coworkers would say things like, "Ooh, I don't do social media. Okay, you don't do social media, but the students that you're teaching, they want to learn about it. So, um, I'm gonna curse again. Shit or get off the pot, girl. Like if you don't want to learn about the things that the people here want to learn, go away. Let someone else occupy that space. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to actually push yourself to be uncomfortable. We need to learn about the content that I love and only I love. That flies in the face of everything that we're doing as creatives. That flies in the face of everything that creatives have done up to this point. And so if you subscribe to that, maybe you shouldn't be an educator here. Maybe you shouldn't be in a position of authority. If you aren't going to challenge yourself to have a tough conversation and tell an employee what their responsibility is to their students in their classroom, you can resign. Find something that you do want to do because that's what's needed here. And we have some time. We're as a society, we're all learning how to get there. I'm learning new exercises daily and patience around that because I want change like yesterday. But change takes time, and I'm sure there's plenty of Black people that have sang about that. That songs we replay because it's Black History Month. But we're not there yet. we got some room for growth for sure. Yeah.
I love it. I'm telling you, I am loving it. I'm loving every morsel of it, every single solitary morsel of it. So the last question, I believe you were about to say something. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have to say one last thing, and I know I said this earlier, but I have to reiterate it. I say all of this stuff because I practice what I preach. And if I were to be having a conversation with the student and the conversations that I do have with students, I challenge students to learn new things and to stretch themselves. Therefore, I too can stretch. And I want to show them how possible it is and how fun it can be. And so, if any of what I just said was difficult to hear, if it rubbed you the wrong way, my apologies for offending, because definitely not my intention. But also, sometimes it rained randomly yesterday and I didn't know it was going to rain. That was offensive to me. It didn't stop raining. It was still raining and that water was wet. So just two things can be true. We can stretch, we can grow, we can model and be the change. And it can be hard. It can be scary. And that's okay too. That's why we have community. And through that community, we get to support each other through that journey. So I'm shutting up now. For at least for until you
No,
finish your question.
no, no, please don't. Please speak these words unto me. Okay, speak these words unto us. We need them. We need to creative, courageous environments of communication that is open and that is earnest and that is honest in our society. I mean,
Mhm.
the previous president got condemned for a lot of things that he said. He told the truth, though. He told the truth. It didn't matter how comfortable it was or uncomfortable it was for the public. He said a lot of things that were true, and he predicted a lot of things that we're experiencing now that, they're looking for him now again. You see what I'm saying? So change, it happens. I was speaking on Killer Priest on his platform, and I said art challenged the order of the day.
Mhm.
Art challenges the order of the day, but it also documents the experience of the time frame that it's speaking of. So if you wanted to know what life was like 10,000 years ago, look at a piece of art from
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
So what's reflective of this time and what's being marginalized in this time? The first thing that you destroy when you destroy a civilization is you destroy its art and its voice. So the rebellion comes in its art and its voice. So the authenticity that exists in regards to this art form and this art from these creatives, if it's stifled, if it's marginalized, if it's overshadowed, if it's censored, if it's silenced, the society that you exist in is under military occupation. So I say to that audience that in the space of time, understand and have a little space of patience because
Mhm.
Van Gogh was not popular in his time. He was
Mm.
popularized after his time.
Mm.
Dr. King wasn't popular in his time. He was
Mm-mm.
popularized after his time. Malcolm X wasn't popular in his time. Still is not popular now. But there are more people that are gravitating towards the things that he said versus the time that he was in. So that speech and that art, it appreciates with time. And that was my point. It appreciates with time. It's in the word itself. It appreciates
Yep.
over time. This is why it's called an asset. This is why it's called an investment. It appreciates while other things that seem valuable, they depreciate over time, naturally depreciate. So this art form becomes purposeful on purpose for a particular purpose the longer it's around. So people begin to realize how important the arts are, how
Mhm.
important the sciences are, because the sciences were also looked at and demonized.
Mhm.
Now people are
Witchcraft.
relying on the sciences. You see what I'm saying? People are relying
Mhm.
on the sciences and they're relying on the art to tell the story. So we're here on the Art of Storytelling podcast now because storytelling has become popular, has become useful, and it's become youthful. So it's not just the elder in the tribe that's responsible for telling the story. Everyone is,
Mhm.
more especially the youth. But if they're
Mhm.
looking to control how the youth are communicating and how the youth are expressing themselves creatively, then we're in a military occupational type of society. So this is supposed to be the land of the free. Let's be free. So I just wanted to add that right quick if I could.
I have to affirm that. I had a conversation yesterday. I told her I saw a colleague that works in a different department, and we went for a walk, and that's normal on campus. There are people that work here, and we just take breaks and we go out and walk around campus to just get fresh air. And we were walking around, and me and this friend, our personal beliefs aside, we were talking about how we have witnessed um, censorship in this space, in the Full Sail universe, and how it's so wild to see it because the people in Full Sail are typically pretty free spirited. And I said earlier in the conversation, oh well, we um we don't force people to do what they don't want to do. Also, if you're going to present ideas, it is important to present both sides of the idea, not just what you want or what aligns with what you feel to be true, because we have to allow people the opportunity to exercise their free will and let them decide what makes sense to them. And I see so many well meaning liberal people behaving in very oppressive ways, because if I allow you to learn about this thing, you might like it, and I can't take that because that's going to negatively impact me. I want you to agree with me. And so if you have a conversation about politics in your classroom, if you offer opportunities to students in your classroom to participate in certain activities of a political nature or of certain things, it's important that we bring in both sides so everyone has the opportunity to go where they feel most comfortable. And that's a really hard thing for people. And that's the thing I think is so interesting. All of my liberal friends, they demonize the conservatives for so long. Oh, the conservatives are burning books and banning knowledge and I'm in Florida, so CRT and all the names, right? You can't say certain names here without people just getting upset. And I respect that, right? If you're not comfortable talking about both sides of it, don't talk about it at all. Let someone else do that. It's also irresponsible to present only your side of the story. That's not freedom. And everyone knows what freedom feels like. And so, and I've seen over time students that felt one way start to recognize the bias that's taking place on the part of the well-meaning, you know, person who only showed one side of the coin. And that's disingenuous. It's I start to not feel I start to have trust issues when somebody's not telling me the whole story. Because if you did what you were supposed to do, you can tell me the whole story and I'll be able to see that. And that's I grew up in an environment where I was restricted from learning certain things because we were told that if you learn certain things, and not my mom, but like a religious environment where if you learn certain information, you might be led astray. And so you can't even see it. You can't even know that this exists. You're not allowed to talk to these types of people. You're not allowed to go to these types of events because you might see something and it entices you and you're going to leave. And as a teenager, that never made sense to me because I'm like, but if I subscribe to this thing, I'm still going to subscribe to it when I see the thing that I don't subscribe to. So this over here doesn't stop being less true because this thing over here exists. It's probably going to make it more true for me, you know? All the more reason for me to be able to see all the information and then decide what makes sense and also inquire, learn. But, fear, it controls a lot more of our behavior than we care to acknowledge. I try to be honest about the things I'm scared of and so that I don't do that, but it happens. What you gonna do, I guess. There's racism, so but you had another question. You got it.
I'm telling you, I love every single solitary moment and morsel of everything that was discussed today. It's beautiful for my spirit, and it's more affirming in why I wake up in the morning. They say your why has to be tremendous. Your why has to be bigger than you. And an experience with you in this academic setting makes the why more meaningful and more purposeful. You share tremendous insight and challenge. So you mentioned you challenge your students. You have challenged me in ways in life that have made me a better person, a better man, a better father, and a better student. So in that reciprocity space, I want to commit my time and my energy to properly, document and reshape the narrative that's told about our people specifically. And I mean, it's an arduous task because we're not a monolith and we don't go one particular way. It's not, you know, Aerosmith and Run DMC. It's not walk this way, talk this way when it comes to us. You see what I'm saying? It's so many different ways, and that's the beauty of it because it gives credence to every aspect of the story, every aspect. So all of its layers, all of its intricacies, and all of its greatness, is something that needs to be told. So on that note, my last question, I think, I think, is if you had a video camera and you were looking into this video camera and you were sharing tips for success for Black students and Black faculty coming to Full Sail in an instructional type of situation, however you wanted to frame it, what would you say? What would your message be to the Black students and to the Black faculty in regards to, since you were both, since you were both, okay, uh, tips for success here at Full Sail.
Mm. I used to say this all the time in the classroom. And a lot of times I was talking to myself when I would say it too. Probably first, um, be gentle with yourself. That was a idea that a therapist, one of my therapists that I've seen over the course of my life, she introduced that idea to me. Be gentle with yourself, Joya. Um, and I let out a sigh of relief that I didn't even know I was holding. Um, because I could be nice to myself. Like what? What? I don't have to be perfect. And when I fall short, I can get up. I can forgive myself. I can do better. I can be better. It is extremely important that you move through your life with that awareness, um, desire, and know that that's your right. No one can take that from you, and no one can give you that permission. I was very blessed that someone introduced the idea to me, and I say that she introduced the idea to me, right? She didn't give me the permission. It wasn't because she told me to be gentle with myself. I was gentle with myself. I still had to go and sit and chew and work on understanding what that even meant for me. And I'm doing that every single day. It changes, it looks different, it feels different. Um, but I really do believe that we all deserve more kindness and more gentleness, especially Black people in this country. We have endured some horrible, unimaginable things, and we deserve better. So just know that that's your right. And if you encounter someone who tells you differently, have compassion for them because that's a trauma response. It doesn't mean that they're right. It does mean that they're stuck in a place that you can't access, you know? And so when our friends are going through things, our loved ones are going through things, there's so much power in just sitting with them in that moment and acknowledging that this is hard for them, you know? Um, so that's what compassion means to me. But be gentle with yourself. You deserve. You also deserve to be here. And you know how I know that? Because you here. You would not be here if you didn't deserve to be here. I don't care where you came from. I don't care if you're the first person to ever walk in here. I don't care what you know, what you don't know. You deserve to be here. So, especially because you're paying to be here in some way, shape, or form. You are not spending time and energy and resources, money in other places. So, be where your feet are, right? And get every single ounce out of it that can be beneficial to you. Build community, find connection, be a helper, all of those things. Learn. Um, this is a question I thought about. I wrote some responses, and so some things I really want to make sure I say. So that's for everyone, right? Also, make sure that you are having fun in this process, teachers and students. Have fun. Life is hard. We got to pay bills. Like, there's a lot of stuff that ain't fun about being an adult and alive and just life, right? Squeeze every bit of joy out of everything you can. And if that means that in your class this month, teachers, you teach about your favorite book, story, joke, maybe you grade your assignments with memes because memes help people feel a little bit more safe, especially when we're in a written space where I can't hear your voice and feel your energy. Maybe you making a small joke helps me feel more safe, right? Students, have fun. Focus on topics that are interesting to you. Also, understand that it is interesting to you. It may not be interesting to anyone else. You may be the first person that introduced this idea to that other person, which is the importance of you talking about it. I can't tell you how many assignments I worked on in class, and my teachers would say things like, I don't know what that means. I don't know that anybody, like, you want to do a thing about this? Do you mean this? Because I've never heard of that. I had people tell me that they didn't think that something that I wanted to focus on was possible. And it was exactly why I would want to focus on it in the class. And, you know, I graduated. I graduated with a really high GPA in the honor society. Like, so I had all the accolades, right? And then right after I graduated, I was asked to come teach. So I did something right, like I was right. I'm glad I did it in those classes, in those assignments where I decided to do a marketing campaign where I focused the content on Black girls and put Black girls in the media images because I was a Black girl and I never saw myself depicted in this marketing content. And people told me it was going to be hard. It was going to be difficult. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how you're going to accomplish that. I found like hella resources. I found hella examples. And the stuff that I made, it was bomb. People asked me to come back and show it again. Some of those things you might see in those classes as examples of how to do your work. So go set the standard, make it higher, set the bar at a higher point. Um, and have fun. Have fun. We are in a media landscape. Our grads have worked on really cool stuff. So it's relevant. And if they don't understand why it's relevant, prove it. Do your research, do your Googles. Um, Mistakes are okay. This is our first time doing all of this. And that's beautiful. The first time I made mac and cheese, I got a bomb mac and cheese recipe. The first time I made it, it was bomb. It's also like way better now that I've made it like 50 million more times. So repetition, it only makes us better. So practice. It's okay that it's not perfect. What is perfection, right? That's not a thing. The construct. Um, okay, now specifically to students, try new things. You will be confronted with information, ideas, projects, suggestions that do not appeal to you. It's boring. It's hard. You don't care about it. I hear you. I hear you. Me, I had those same feelings. I promise. Those people worked hard on that curriculum. They worked hard on that curriculum for a reason. And so even if it's not what you imagined, still try it out. And if it ends up not being worthwhile, you can celebrate the fact that you gave it a try. You were right. You gave it a try. And now you have evidence to support it. Because I could tell you that Joya doesn't like this thing, right? when people see me try to engage with that and they watch me try to do it, they're like, "Ooh, Joya does not like that thing. Let me not ever do that again." There's evidence now, right? And that is part of the student experience, the scientific process. That's one of those things that you are paying for, right? Also, I know for me as a student, it was important to me to represent diversity in almost every project that I worked on. I needed to step into places that were not diverse to have an understanding of how not diverse it was so that I could then figure out how I was going to make it diverse. What are the things they're going to tell me no to stop me? What are the questions they're going to ask me? And so let me tell you what, Joy did a lot of things. She tried a lot of stuff. A lot of it worked out. And now when I go into a pitch, I can answer that question whether I'm talking to my homegirl over here or you know, Todd Wexley, the like some stuffy white guy from Connecticut or whatever, like for real. I can appeal to both of those audiences. And I got that benefit because I showed up in spaces with people that didn't look like me, that didn't understand me, and they weren't trying to. I sat and I observed. I was like, oh, okay. I was a spy, treat it like it's a stealth mission. However you need to frame it for yourself. But that is a valuable experience and it will make you a better professional. Period. Um let's talk about if we realize that we were wrong. You really just got your money's worth with your degree because you learned something. You learned something new, and you have evidence to support that too. There were a lot of things that I was wrong about. There were a lot of classes that I thought I was going to hate, a lot of instructors that I didn't think I had anything in common with. And then I got an opportunity to sit in their classes and then later become their colleagues. I love those people. I love those people. We're different. I know where we're different, how we're different, and that's cool. Because I don't want them telling me to be different because I'm different from them and I'll do that to them. But also, I have these really amazing relationships. I have really great friends and supporters. And um, right before I became a teacher, right when I became a teacher, people didn't know this about me, but my mother was transitioning from this realm. She had cancer, and she passed. I want to say my mom made it long enough to see me get that job and become a teacher. She was gone within a month. Um, no one knew that that was happening in my life. These new colleagues of mine, they didn't know me. They didn't know my mom. They didn't know anything about how hard that was for me. All of those people rallied together and they sent me, and this was also height of the pandemic, like early into the pandemic. They got together and they got gift cards for me and my family so that we didn't have to cook. And they sent gift cards to my house. They fed us. They stepped into my classes and they took care of my classes for me when I couldn't even get up in the morning. Those people loved me, even though we were different, even though they didn't understand. And I'm so grateful for those experiences. Those are the people that are teaching you. Get to know them. Get to know them. These are lifelong relationships. You want to be able to say, this is my community. These are my people. There were instructors that I would call and talk to on the phone for hours about my mom. They didn't know her. I just met them. But man, thank God. And those experiences exist for you too. So be curious, get to know them, learn. Because again, we want to get every ounce of value out of this experience because you only get to be a student in this program for so long. You don't want to feel like you wasted it later. Learn, admit that you don't know. To the faculty, I promise I'm getting close to the end. To the faculty, what you do is like being a parent. It's hard. People don't understand all the things that you're doing, all the worry, all the stress, all the fears. Like it takes a lot out of you. Um, the students probably won't know that, and they will one day. They will one day. And even if they don't, count yourself lucky that you get to make that sacrifice for them. And if you can't make that sacrifice, that's okay too. Find a space where you can, right? Give that opportunity to someone who wants to do that. Um, but also, more importantly, and I'm a parent of a teenager, remember what it felt like to be in their shoes. We're old, we're wise, we're seasoned. We know all the things. We've had the jobs, we've gotten fired, we've gotten promoted. We've had people say no to us, we've had people say yes to us. Remember how scary that was for you, how alone you felt in those moments, and you decide to go and be a companion through that. Don't judge, don't ridicule, show up for them, love on them, encourage them. Everything else works itself out, especially when we have community with one another. And this is a sacred journey for everyone. I cherish every single moment that I had as a teacher. I shared stories about the students, and there are so many more students that said just because they logged into a Zoom session and I was there and I was being silly, they felt like they belonged here and they didn't drop out of school. They didn't know that I was dealing with my mom dying, and they realized our lives were so similar and they felt like they belonged. You know, those sacrifices meant something. They still mean something. And that's a privileged space to hold. And I'm grateful that in those moments I showed up appropriately and that I was present for it. So be present for it. It's sacred. It's so sacred. I miss being a teacher in a lot of ways, which is why I will never totally put that title down because I'm always here to be connected with others. Um, but what you're doing, man, it's important. It's important. So they'll reflect on it later. They'll say thank you. They'll probably say I'm sorry too. I've had a lot of people come to me, them same people, those same students that have said some of those most affirming things to me, also have said some hurtful things to me, and we're still in each other's lives. It's okay. It's a process, and it's a gift. And like I said, to all of us, this is our community for better or for worse. We chose to be here. We choose to be here every day that we show up. Remember why we chose it, honor it, be helpers to each other, be kind to each other, love on each other. Because you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, just like they don't know what's going on behind the scenes for us. So you just want to be delicate with it. I think that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Are you sure? Is that your final answer?
Any more questions? Any more thoughts?
I just wanted to tell you that I'm thankful. I'm thankful before all that is holy and from everyone that I descend from that you're here and that magic is real. Like we don't have to know mother, but we do know mother because of you. Today is the day that I buried my mother 14 years ago. And look at the grace that is shown to the heart every time I look for my mother. And even in the most hopeless of moments, I find her. I find the light in her, the healing space that is her. And she sent you today, you know? So as mothers, we know that mother, and we know the attack on mother by the dominant society. They're seeking to strip you from the gift. The only way a child knows God is through mother and relegated to something else for their own gain. But understanding life and understanding process, understanding trimesters, understanding all of the things that come along with birthing a determined idea that comes from mother, that isn't the whole total existence of mother, but this is motherhood. This is the hood that's lifted off and the veil that is unveiled. That is mother. So our thoughts and ideas, our creativity, our brilliance that's birthed into existence for the world to marvel at and to learn from is mother. So I thank you for being mother today, for being the mothering energy, spirit, and force that's transformative. That's the great idea whisperer that facilitates an environment where earnest thought and phenomenalness, if that's a word, can take place. Thank you for being you, in short, is what I'm saying. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas around this topic. There was no way in the world I could do this without having you here. Not the Art of Storytelling podcast, but more especially this particular research question. There was no way. So I was like, if Professor Joiya says no, then I'm not doing the shit. I'm gonna have to figure something else out. I'm gonna have to do something else. But I was so thankful that you carved out time with everything that you got going on to share and hold space for me, you know, especially today. So, final thoughts for you. Anything else you want to say? Anything you left off your list? It don't matter where it's from. It don't matter what. Have the floor to express one more time. And I just want the family to know. I just want the people that's going to listen to this to know. This is why she is who she is unto me. Okay, so I didn't use uh, what you call it, filler speech in my introduction. I mean, every single solitary thing that I said about her and more that I did not share. So,
I'm
ma'am,
writing down the idea whisperer because I love that. I am gonna take that on.
it's
Um,
yours.
ooh, I feel like I grew up watching SNL. My
Mm,
mom loved comedy. She loved Saturday Night Live. And recently, on one of the episodes, they had Michael B. Jordan and this rapper Lil Baby, and everyone was talking about afterwards. At the end of the show, they get everybody on stage, and they're like, "Bye, thanks." The host would do a little speech, and everyone was commenting about Lil Baby and what he said because he's like Michael B. Jordan's like talking and he's like realizing in that moment where he is and what he's doing and what he has done. And he's like, "Mama, I love you." And like Michael kind of hears him. He's like, "What you want to say?" He's like, "Nah, I just, you know, I I'm grateful. I'm overcome with great gratitude." And that's how I feel right now. Mama, I love you, because I would not be here uh, without her and the person she raised me to be. Um, and it feels weird to be here and to have people say the things that you're saying about me. Like, me? What? I'm just out here being silly. But man, it's a privilege. And to know like what today means for you and your relationship with your own mother. Um, I'm just kind of overcome with like the magnitude of how important this is, which goes back to why I'm like, hey, make community with the people that you're here with because we don't know how connected we are to each other, and until we sit down and talk to each other, we won't find out. Um, and to me, it makes it worthwhile to be here. And it makes me grateful for the things that I had to be able to talk about my mom or to embody the things that she instilled in me, in a bunch of different ways, in a bunch of different places. Um, Also, I just love that somehow I still cried today a little bit, got a little choked up. I always tell people I'd be crying all over Full Sail. You can find videos and stories and conversations with me, and at some point I get choked up, but I don't know sometimes how I got to be where I am. I feel so grateful that folks let me show up and do me. Um, and so thank you. And I don't know. That's what this is all about, you know. I'm good. I'm done. My week is finished now. In such a good whole way. So just keep paying it forward to each other. Yeah.
This is Professor Joiya, MCG for now. This is Art of Storytelling Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Go listen to some Outcast.
For real.